firefighting equipment, an ambulance, as well as some other emergency and maintenance vehicles. Because as amazing as my horses are here, I don't think you want them to be your speed of transportation in case of emergency. On the right here is the Biddle House, one of the oldest residents on the island dating back to 1780 and currently serves as the Native American Museum. So this island is famous for a number of things, including the horses, lilacs, and fudge. If you were to have a free sample from all 13 fudge shops, you probably consume around 2 pounds of fudge. And then find yourself over here on the right at the Mackinac Island Medical Center. We have a doctor who lives here year-round. His hours are Monday to Friday, 9 to 4. So please plan your emergencies accordingly. Over on the left here, you will see 2 green buildings. This is Twilight and the Windsor. They used to be hotels, however now they serve as housing for Grand Hotel employees, which is the island's largest employer. A lot of the workers here are college students. Back in the early 1800s, the street that we're on used to be the main street, back when the fur trade was the dominant industry on the island. Today, as you have seen, this street houses many of the island's bed and breakfasts, as well as numerous shops and art galleries. Out in front, you will see Lake Huron. And over on the left-hand side in that yellow house is where our mayor, Margaret Dowd, lives. She's been the mayor on Mackinac Island for 51 years. And the Dowd family are fixing up this pink building over here and turning it into a bed and breakfast. Now over here on the right is the Chambers stable. The Chambers family has been housing horses here for 5 generations. This stable is where the horse-drawn taxis would go from before that increased to over 5 times the size, and they had to build a larger barn, which you will see later on at the top of the hill. Now, would anyone like to make a guess on which lilac tree is the oldest on the island? The one here on the right or the one here on the left? That is correct. And if you visit Mackinac Island mid-June, all of these lilacs will be in full bloom. There are over 68 different types of lilacs and varieties, and the island celebrates the blooming of these flowers with a week-long festival which includes many events and ends in a parade. And the entire island looks and smells incredible. Now you may be riding with me and thinking to yourself that you would like to take the reins and drive your own horse. Well, if that's the case, you can head on over here to the left at Jack's Livery Stable, drive yourself carriage. If you go down that road, they'll give you a horse, a carriage, a mat, a 15-minute training session on how to drive a horse, and then they'll set you free to explore Mackinac Island. Over here's the Grand Hotel bus, pulled by perch-drawn horses. And you'll see a stack of turtles to the left there. You'll notice that there's a turtle theme on the island. That's because the Native American name for the island was Mackinac, which means the great turtle. It has been shortened to Mackinac. On the right is Little Stone Church, currently Union Congregational. Numerous church services are held here during the season as well as weddings. Little Stone Church was built in 1904 from stones gathered on the island. The windows are brought from New York, and the stained glass windows depict the early work of the missionaries to the island. However, if you look closely at those windows, you'll notice that they are protected by plexiglass. Why do you think that is? Well, if you look over to the left, you'll see that in the wintertime, the wind gusts can pick up to 60 miles an hour off the lake. And the storms are pretty strong on the island. Also, someone thought it'd be a good idea to build a golf course next door. Over on the right, you will see a white house on top of the hill there. That is the summer governor's residence. It was built by a Chicago lawyer in 1902 and purchased by the state of Michigan in 1945 for $15,000, which was the original construction cost. That residence has 25 rooms, 11 bedrooms, and 9.5 bathrooms, and it serves as a summer retreat for the current governor of Michigan. Now, for the moment you have all been waiting for your entire lives. The one and only, world-renowned, magnificent, and spectacular statue of a pineapple. Isn't that something else? Does anyone know what the pineapple symbolizes?
Food.
It symbolizes hospitality.
It's so beautiful.
Alright, so the Grand Hotel has the longest porch in the world. Spans 660 feet. The structure was built mostly of white pine, which is Michigan state tree. The Grand Hotel operates from May through the end of October and first opened July 10th, 1887. And back in that day, there were no labor laws, so they booked up the entire Grand Hotel before it was built. They had over 600 workers working day and night all around the clock until the Grand Hotel was finished. How long did it take to build the Grand Hotel?
2 years.
Less than 2 years. Any more guesses? Less than 3 years. Is this anyone's first time on Mackinac Island?
Yeah.
Awesome. Are you just staying for the day or are you staying overnight?
The day.
I love it. Alright, well, the Grand Hotel here was only built in 93 days.
Wow.
93 days?
That's right.
Dang, did you say that?
And when they were building the hotel, they were trying to build it as fast as they could, so they built from opposite ends and met in the middle. And when they met in the middle, they found out that they were a little bit off on their measurements. So there's actually a seam running down the center where it's... And all the rooms in the hotel are uniquely decorated. So you could stay in a different room for an entire year and no two rooms would look, feel, or be decorated the same. That's because they have themes including 2 first ladies and the themes of the movies filmed at the Grand. Does anyone know the name of the movies that were filmed here?
Somewhere in time.
Yes, Somewhere in Time. This was filmed in 1979 starring Christopher Reeves and James Seymour. And then there's an older one that was filmed in 1946 starring an Olympic swimmer. They built a Grand Hotel swimming pool just for her and named it after her. But she did not swim in it because it was too cold. And the movie she starred in is called It's Time for Tea. And as we pointed out earlier, there's a golf course. This golf course is owned by the Grand Hotel. And it's the only course in the world that has a 25-minute horse-drawn shuttle ride between 9. So once you have finished playing your game of golf at the Grand 9 here, you'll load up in one of those horse-drawn shuttles off the left there, waiting by the Grand. And then you'll have a very beautiful, scenic, and peaceful ride into the woods to finish your game of golf. And on this island, we like to be very creative with our names. Would anyone like to make a guess on what they named the second half of the golf course? So you have the Grand 9 because it's by the Grand Hotel. And then you have to go into the woods to finish your game of golf. I think I heard someone say it, the Woods 9. Very original.
What's your baby called?
Alright, so right here is the Grand Hotel parking lot. And Carriage Tours has the largest working draft horse herd in the country, with about 400 draft horses here during peak season. The majority of these horses will be the Belgian breed and the Percheron breed, with some standard breed horses that will pull the horse-drawn taxis. If you will look over the left down that alleyway there, you will all see. What do you see?
Burger.
You will see absolutely nothing. So that is where the Grand Hotel stables used to be until they were doing some routine maintenance on it and they found out that there was actually a crack in the foundation and it was no longer stable.
No, we can't get out. Sit down.
That is the worst joke I have. And they built on the top of Surrey Hill, which you will see later on when we reach the top. The Grand Hotel has 3 teams of Percherons, and they have some Hackney horses. If you're not sure what a Hackney horse is, it's a smaller, rare breed of horse with a higher fancy step, typically used to pull the wedding carriage, the presidential carriage, and some other special smaller carriages. Now you may have noticed that we've been taking some breaks, and this is for the horses, because like you and I, they get winded. So while they're taking a break, my foot's on a break, so they're standing and resting freely. This brake that my foot's on also aids the horses while they're traveling downhill by not having to hold back the weight of the passengers and carriage. You also notice that I'm resting them under a tree. Why do you think I stopped them here?
Little shade.
Yes, for shade. And there is another reason if you remember what's on the other side of the tree. Not hay. Alright, for golf balls.
Oh, nobody gets here.
So protect my horse from any crazy golf balls. And as you can see, they are very well protected. So Saul and Ted, just like the rest of the other carriage tour horses, have a 24/7 hay buffet. get 3 gallons of oats a day. They have a salt block, a mineral block, and an automatic watering system in their stall. These horses only work a few hours out of the day, a few months out of the year. And to top that all off, these horses get a 6-month paid winter vacation. So if anyone knows of any jobs like that, please let me know. But when the season comes to a close, these horses will load up on a horse boat and they will travel to the mainland where they will begin their winter vacation by naturally growing a nice, thick and warm winter coat, and they'll eat lots of hay and horse around with their friends all winter long. Then when the next April and May come around, they'll get back up on their horse boat, come back to the island and work the season. Alright, we have arrived at Four Corners. Again, very original. If you take a left, you'll reach the Woods Golf Course, the Woods Restaurant, summer condos, private residences, and hiking trails, and the airport. If you continue straight, you'll reach the residential area. The year-round residents live, as well as employee housing. And if you take a right, you will reach Fort Mackinac, the state park, and the governor's residence. Now, does anyone know how many doctors we have on the island?
One.
If you look over here to the right, you will see the veterinarian's office underneath the yellow awning on this first barn. How many vets do you think we have here?
5.
That's correct. We have 5. So with that said, now you know where the priorities are. The horses. Now over here on the left, you'll see a team of horses coming straight towards us. Those are what the Percheron breed looks like. That is Scarlet and Opal. That's one of my favorite teams. The Percherons will come in that dapple gray color, or they'll come in a dark bay black color. And the Belgian horses will look like this team behind Scarlet and Opal. As you can see, the Belgian breed is a lighter golden color with light manes and tails, and will typically have a white marking running down the front of their face. And that marking is called a blaze. Now you'll see on this first barn, there's a radio tower. This is the taxi barn. And the horse-drawn taxi service here runs 24/7, 365 days a year. So if you need a ride at 1 o'clock in the morning, you can call the taxi office to schedule a pickup. And with that said, we have some horses that will live here during the winter to pull the horse-drawn taxi, the trash recycling pickup service, and the dray service. Alright, now we're going to have a little bit of a closer view of the barn where my horses live and where I show up to work. And as I pull forward to the right, you will see where we park most of our carriages. Most of them are on the road right now, but there's still quite a handful left. The green and white striped carriage off to the right is the largest carriage in the world. Those carriages are pulled by 3 horses and can hold up to 35 passengers plus the driver. Now you'll notice there's a couple more barns over here. The next barn over is called Middle Barn. That is where the horses that pull the 3-horse hitch carriage live. And last but not least, we have the big barn where my horses live and where I show up to work. a door cracked open in a pile of horseshoes. That is where our farriers work. If you're not sure what a farrier is, they put shoes on horses. These horses get new shoes every 4 to 6 weeks or whenever they lose a shoe. And behind this barn you will see the horses get their bags. Now these horses you see always work with the same partners and they work on the same side. The Belgian and Percheron breeds can weigh anywhere from 1,400 pounds to over 2,000 pounds and can pull anywhere from 3 to 7 times their weight. Alright, I'm going to let my horses rest for a moment.
You got like 60.
That's because you were separated.
You got like 60 like that.
Alright, while my horses are resting, this is a perfect time for any questions. You can ask me anything about the horses.
Yeah, how many total horses on the island?
During peak season, there's around 600. And that would include the carriage tour horses, the Grand Hotel stables, the equestrian center, the drive-yourself barn, the riding stables, the privately owned horses, and more.
And how many permanent residents are on the island?
Approximately 500. 500 to 600.
Is there a D&D?
And during the winter time, the majority of the businesses will close. However, the school will remain open, the post office, Dowd's Market, a couple restaurants, a couple banks, and a couple bed and breakfasts will remain open.
Do you need a license to drive the carriages?
You have to have a valid ID and you have to be over the age of 18.
Thank you.
Michael, I'm over 18, you're not yet.
They will train you how to drive these horses. So there is a 2-week training program where you learn how to drive
Yeah, about
the
a year.
horse.
She want to drive the horses.
She said that earlier too. You're paying
No, because you get too loud kids.
tail.
Alright, well, there's no more questions. I will begin heading to the top, which is where you will all have a break. There are concessions available, restrooms. If you have butterfly tickets, the Butterfly House is up here. The Grand Hotel Stables and Mackinac Island Carriage Museum is up here as well. You can spend as much time as you'd like. And then when you're ready to continue your tour, you'll simply walk to the other side of the white Surrey Hill building there at the top, and you will board a brand new carriage pulled by 3 new horses and a new driver. And that will take you up and around the state park. Alright, now will you all please give a grand round of applause to Saul and Ted for taking us to the top. And over here on the right you will see a white building that's drawing in quite a crowd. That is a blacksmith shop there. It's called called Forge Memory. You can take a railroad spike or a horseshoe, schedule an appointment, and they will turn it into a custom item. And the Grand Hotel Stables is that green barn to the right with the red trim and barn doors. That's also part of the Mackinac Island Carriage Museum. And before you leave the carriage, a photographer is going to come out and take a couple photos of the horses. And then I'll lead you all to a staircase where you can all safely leave the carriage for your break.